Yeah.
If I visit you in Florida, can I go to work with you?
No. You'd have to have a signed permission slip stating that you understand that if anything happens to you while at work, that we are not held liable. Things like that.
Okay.
And your institution would have to cover your own insurance.
What institution?
You would have to be with an institution.
What do you mean? What do you mean an institution?
An institution within the medical field. You'd have to be going to school in the medical field or be going to school in general. You have to be with law enforcement or anything else.
What could happen to me at your job?
So there have been cases where we do retain items from individuals that do have toxins in them, like mercury, you know, things like that. Roundup? And you'd be very surprised. You'd
Monsanto?
Oh, I'm so sorry, what?
Glyphosate.
I poisoned my grass with Roundup.
First of all, you should never do that because that only kills dandelions, and dandelions are a great heart medication. I boil dandelions from my yard. Ah! And I use it to make heart medication, and the biggest competitor for pulling up the heart medications is going to be Roundup itself. If you look into it, Roundup is connected to one of the largest heart medicine corporations and one of the largest herbs and plants that are great for controlling heart problems is going to be, I'm so sorry. It's going to be dandelions, and that's what Roundup mostly kills is dandelions. So, you know, don't use Roundup. Consume dandelions. But going on to that, you'd have to be with the proper institution that would cover your insurance in case anything happens to us, in case you're exposed physically to anything that could harm you, in case, like, you know, that goes from razor blades to chemicals to, you know, whatever it is. So you'd have to have something signed stating that your company states that they will pay for any insurance that happens to you. That being said, though, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff at work like that, depositions, and then on top of that, somebody broke into my car again, and I'm guessing it was my old neighbor from my old apartment complex from a city that's 30 minutes away. And the reason why I state that is because my new vehicle tag came in the mail, but it didn't come to my registered address. It went to my older address. And my landlord sent me a message because I left on good terms with my landlord. So she messaged me and she was like, "Hey, I just want you to know your new tag came here." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let me just head on over." So I went over there, picked up my tag, and I was like, "I didn't realize that this would come over here." And she was like, "Oh yeah, your old next door neighbor, it came to his mail apparently, and he gave it to me," which is absolute bullshit. Because it's given with a separate apartment number and everything. But this was the neighbor that broke into my own room and like caused a lot of problems that I had a lot of shit against. Like, he was a big problem in my life, to the point like I was like gonna call the cops on him because he was being too obsessive type of deal. And so he apparently was the one that got my tag, and he told the landlord that he was gonna, you know, he was gonna hand it to me. She just needed to contact him. And I told my landlord at the time that I felt uncomfortable with him, and so she luckily remembered that and was like, "No, it's okay, I'm gonna take it, no worries." Fuck! So close to that window.
No, bro, oh, man. I had this totem, I had this hex like 90% cleansed, and...
Where are you right now? Oh, I'm sorry, did I run past you?
You brought her right to me.
Why is this guy so obsessed about you?
So at the time, I did have a partner, and when me and my partner had ended, that neighbor asked me out for drinks, and I turned him down because it was literally the first week that I was separated from my partner of 3 years, and he just immediately started hitting me up, and I was like, "No, I just need some time to myself. Like, I just dealt with a lot." And he was like, "Yeah, sure, no, okay, no worries," but would leave me gifts. Would leave me like items of my own personal belongings. Like, apparently so the notes would state that I dropped my bra or dropped my panties Well, I was going to get my laundry done because we don't have a laundromat in our facility, so I had to drive to a laundromat just down the road. And somehow he would always have my bras and panties. And I got really annoyed at that because I was like, that's really odd that only those items were left all the time.
What?
And especially since I would check and make sure that I didn't drop anything. I couldn't figure out how he always had these items since I didn't drop them. Well, one day, I'm guessing he slipped up because I came home to my apartment door open. And from there, I had contacted, law enforcement after I checked my apartment and made sure that nobody was in there. I ran and contacted law enforcement. Law enforcement came and they tested everything. They couldn't find any fingerprints or nothing. And they told me it sounds like from what you've stated that it could be somebody close to you that's doing these things. And I was like, but I don't know anybody. Okay, there's no way that she would know I was there unless she has something to see me through stone walls. But I noticed like the weirdest things. Like my dirty clothes had been went through, like my dirty hamper was emptied and some of my dirty clothes were on the floor. And then some photographs of me from my living room. The photo frame, one was busted. But some of the photos were taken out and I didn't realize it. And I just started putting two and two together.
So in other words, you were living pretty much in a horror movie with that one stereotypical guy who's just overly obsessed about you.
You would think. And now here's the thing, ready? Our apartment complex, the way that you enter and exit our wing of the apartment complex, the only reason you would go to our wing is because you were in 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the units. So unit number 1 and number 2 were on the bottom. Unit number 3 I was in, and unit number 4 he was in. And you couldn't enter in the rest of the main building going through this way. So you would only go through this way if you lived in the units 1 through 4. And so a lot of my packages would randomly show up at his, and so he'd always have an excuse to talk to me and things like that. And I never wanted to intrude on people. I never wanted to tell people my problems. So for a good long while, I didn't even tell my landlord. I didn't tell the police beyond that first time. I didn't want to cause problems or draw attention to myself because that was, I thought it was stressful and embarrassing. So the main things that neighbor stole consistently anytime my apartment was broken into, which was 4 times, was my panties, my bras, my perfumes, and photos of me. And when I moved to my new place...
That light is where the hex is at. That light I put in the sky is where the hex is.
Ooh.
Every time I go to it, she chases me off it.
But you said that they can't see that light, right?
The killer can't. Okay. Our team can. I'm putting it for everybody to know that's where a hex is. But I hope you didn't wear your bra and panties after you get them back from these weird people, because they could...
I'm sure he probably did, or like something of the like. But ultimately, I didn't experience anything like anything strange or odd after I moved, other than the one time my car got broken into, and I think that's just because I moved to a new area and the whole neighborhood was experiencing break-ins, so I don't attribute that to him. But when my new license plate came in...
No, but I'm saying, you're saying that you were losing your clothes and then they were reappearing, or someone was giving them back to you?
A lot of people are not decent human beings like you. A lot of them are not going to just wear them, they're going to sniff them, they're going to suck on them, they're going to do really weird shit to them.
Well,
and he's going after my dirty clothes.
Oh my goodness! So I can't hit a skill check. That must be Huntress. That's Huntress lullaby, because I'm not getting any notifications of skill checks. No, I'm saying they could do like even more gross things to your clothes.
Oh, I'm sure he probably did, but you know. Ultimately, though, after the initial time I first moved into my new place and my car got broken into, everybody else's cars were getting broken into, so I know that wasn't him. But if you've had your same license plate for like 10 years or so, you know that you will get a new replacement license plate. And that's what ended up happening, is that got sent to my old address where that stalker had lived, my next door neighbor. And supposedly he randomly got my license plate and notified the landlord, and then like the landlord took it from him to give to me, and she told me that he had it. Well, what that tells me is that, so you can look up online your past addresses if you pay a certain fee. I think it's like $10. You can like do a background check on anybody, and you can also look into their previous addresses as well for an additional fee. I'm guessing that's what must have happened because my car was broken into recently, just after I got my license plate. I thought, huh, that's really fucking weird. And what was stolen? So as a female, I carry inside my vehicle emergency day stuff, which is like in case you get your period like a day or two early, or you know, whatever. I carry a book bag with me, and it has spare leggings, spare tops, spare bra, spare panties, perfume, and deodorant. That is just my emergency set in case anything happens to me. Just, you know, I just have that spare set of clothing that I can change into. That was ransacked, and only my bra and panties were stolen again, as well as my perfume in there, which was like a $10 perfume from Victoria's Secrets because they had a sale. So I was really upset about that, and I thought that's really fucking weird that this would happen again. And then a note on my door that said, "I'm glad I found you. I'm glad I found you." So I called the cops. And then from there...
Dude, that's terrifying.
Yeah, but that could be any of the weird people that you send pictures to online and all that stuff that you
Nobody else knows. Like, nobody else knows, probably. Like, I don't tell anybody anything. So it's like beyond you and like the few people I interact with online, nobody else knows anything. "I'm so glad I found you" sounds so personal. And when I called law enforcement, they're like, "Yeah, that's somebody very personal to you that's making a statement. We see inside your history you've made another report about another person that had bothered you." And I was like, "Yeah, because I'm pretty sure it's fucking him. I'm almost positive it's him." And they're like, "Well, without proof, we can't do anything." I said, "Can't you dust for fingerprints? I work with law enforcement. I know you guys can." So then they reluctantly dusted for fingerprints, and they're like, "Well, without him actually doing any physical harm, we can't do anything. The most you can do is just show evidence." And I was like, of course. You guys aren't going to do anything to help me. Why would I ever, as a female, rely on law enforcement to help me whenever I state that some male has made me uncomfortable to the point that he has come to my residence? Law enforcement doesn't care unless it's physical, because at that point, they can do something. And even then, even if it's physical, if he was to punch me in the face, but he was to run away, law enforcement couldn't even do anything then, because they'd have to prove that it was him that physically punched me. So, I made a big stink about it, continuously calling them every single day, to the point that they sent a detective out to come and interview. And then from there, they actually handled the problem to the point that, like, okay, you have enough of a paper trail that we can at least, if he tries to come near you again, or if somebody comes near you again, if you were to contact us immediately, we could do something then. Again, they stated specifically, without physical evidence that it was him trapped on scene by DNA or anything otherwise, they couldn't really do anything. At least it would still be there as a paper trail. And I was like, this is fucking useless. This is absolutely a waste of my time. So then from there, on my actual job itself, I've had a couple of positions, because my job requires me to, in case of anything, of my reports or my narratives or anything, that, you know, I testify to my findings, I testify to the scene, to the documents, to everything. And this is for my work. Not for my personal life, this is for my work life. So then from there, I've been dealing with depositions. And then I've been going to school. And then I've been dealing with all of that. So it's just, I've been super busy, so I have not had the time to dedicate to this game or any free time, really.
Terrible hunches play. Terrible.
Well, hey, on the bright side, TiniDemon, if you ever feel lonely and you think no one's thinking about you, just think about that dude who left that note.
Shut up. You're wrong for that, but you're not wrong.
If you ever feel unloved or unstalked, just look.
Let's think of that note.
I guess I'm never alone, per se.
I don't know what to tell you.
There's nothing that can be done other than I just keep my wits to myself. So I keep my gun in my vehicle. I keep like weapons throughout the house just in case. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, if worse comes to worse, I can protect myself. It's just like, damn, I thought I was clear from this for like almost 3 years, and now he's back again. And all because my fucking license plate went to my old address. I'm so pissed. I'm so angry because that could have ended everything. I honestly, like, I feel like the thing with like stalkers is that if after a couple of years they don't have any access to you, they kind of like give up. that wasn't his case per se. Because as soon as he had some inkling of me, which I can't imagine it would have went to his address. That's the thing, is that like I caught him once, only once, but I caught him one time accepting a package from downstairs. So I lived up on the top floor, and so did he. So I heard the doorbell ring for them. There's 2 doorbell rings. So there's the like the main ringer for our wing, which had like a separate ring, and then there's like the personal ring that you get when the person goes up to you. So essentially, like, if we had a pizza delivery, the person would ring the only doorbell out there, which is the main ringer of the whole wing, and then somebody would obviously come out of their room and come and get to that. And if he rang it and somebody like gave like the option on like the pizza delivery thing, like you can ring the doorbell or just come inside and go up the stairs, would be the notice I would always give the pizza delivery guy, so he would just come upstairs if I couldn't get to that door in time. And so my neighbor would constantly go downstairs and accept packages, and he would sometimes hand them to me personally, be like, here, I got this for you, because the guy thought it was me, haha. But I watched him through the window one time. I watched him, and I knew right then he was lying. I fucking knew, but there's nothing I could do. So he'd always check my packages. Like, he'd always see whatever I was ordering or whatever the fuck he would try to do. Like, it pissed me off. But again, nobody believes you because, you're just some random nobody, and you always get the excuse, why would somebody stalk you? Why would somebody bother you? And here's the thing. Guys get stalked too. As much as girls get stalked, guys do get harassed. They get stalked, they get bothered, they get harmed by females just as crazy. And that's the thing. So it's like, I could sit there and say, oh, this guy was following me, he was bothering me, blah, blah, blah. Guys get that too. It's just, it's not by typical people that you would, want it from. Like, if it was an attractive person doing those things, your mindset would be different. Or like whenever like you'd sit there and say like, whenever the thing was like, I had a friend who was like 300 pounds. Like she was a big girl. Now, that being said, I knew that she was lazy. It wasn't a genetic disorder. She was just lazy. Mm-hmm. She was a big girl. And she was one-timed. And nobody believed her because she was a fat girl. And the excuse was, well, you're fat. Who would ever do that to you?
No.
Sound logic.
Because when a predator goes after a victim, they're going to go after somebody that nobody's going to believe. Who would believe a big girl versus a little girl? If if a little girl says she was, everybody would believe her. But if a big girl says it, nobody would. And so that person would continuously go after the bigger person because they were easier. They knew that they couldn't fight them, things like that. She has since lost 100 and something pounds. So she's doing good for herself. But at that time, that was the issue. And it's like, as a guy, if somebody as a male says, oh, this girl's bothering me, this girl's stalking me, none of your guy friends are going to be like, oh no, poor you should call the police. They're going to be like, ha ha ha, that's so funny. And so I fear for a lot of my guy friends too, because a lot of you guys do experience those same problems. It just, nobody believes you guys.